Welcome to K, a magical place. A place where users around the internet can come to discuss all things relating to weapons, tools, and apocalyptic survival. K would eventually branch out into broader topics such as camping and nature survival, eventually coining the term in the woods.
Going into the woods with supplies and weapons in order to live/survive in nature.
In the Woods stories would eventually become a popular subgenre of horror for many readers. The story started off discussing close-up experiences with bears, coyotes, and mountain lions, before users started to realize that there was something out there, something that existed in the deepest sanctions of nature, unbothered by man, something equally feral, vicious, and hungry. These horror stories would often share similar traits, describing some sort of being with antlers, covered in fur, and a rancid smell. However, in March of 2013, a user would tell of a different experience during their In the Woods expedition. Heading for In the Woods with a bunch of mates, somewhere in Northern Europe, we decide to hike to this old abandoned Cold War era military facility. Reach the facility after 2 days of hiking. Shit is cash. We spend the day exploring and plinking birds with 22s. By nightfall, we set up a camp in one of the empty warehouses. We go outside, set up a campfire, and start making stew. All of a sudden, we hear the loudest and weirdest roar I've ever heard. We all shit ourselves, grab our rifles, and stare into the darkness. Something is moving about 100 meters out. We hear it rushing through the woods into the facility area. We stand there, silent, listening. Then it stops, and suddenly it is dead silent all around us. Just a stew slowly boiling on the fire. We look at each other and have a brief chat. We decide to carry on with making the stew. Next morning, we wake up and start packing. Everybody's making jokes about how we got so scared of some bear and etc. My buddy sees something lurking on top of the biggest facility building. We try to have a look at what it is, but it's too far away. Some 200 meters maybe. It is just standing there with 2 legs, probably staring at us. The thing is huge, maybe over 7 feet tall. I reach for binoculars to have a good look on who was trolling us with the ghillie suit. Just as I find my binoculars, my mates start shouting. I look at the creature, or whatever it was, and it seems to be running via the facility wall like a lizard. Very, very fast. By now, it is clear it is not a human, nor any animal I know of. It disappears behind one big bunker structure. We decide to nope the fuck out of there. We're scared shitless, even though it is day. As we're hiking back, we don't take any breaks before nightfall. As the sun sets down, we make a camp and start preparing supper. Everyone's a little tense, and we try to joke around. We decide to do guard duty that night. My shift is 01 to 03. Birds are singing like crazy. They do that during the night here. And I managed to see a lone rabbit hopping around our campsite. I would have popped the fucker, but I wanted to let my buddies rest. Suddenly, the bird stops singing and the rabbit stops. It raises its head like it's listening to something. The rabbit nopes out of there very fast, like it's running for its life. I feel very uneasy and flick on my flashlight and shine it towards the darkness. I'm hoping to see a glimpse of a fox or something. Something that could have explained the strange behavior of the other animals. But the forest around us seems empty. Just as I'm putting the light out, I see something move behind the bushes, around 100 meters away. It was something big. I shine the light directly at the bushes and try to get a look through my 1022 scope. I managed to see something moving there, and I believe I saw a pair of yellowish eyes. Then it stands up. I don't know to this day what the fuck it was, but it was hairy looking, very dark, and it had a face. The face was of lighter color, and there were 2 yellow eyes. The thing was around 7 feet tall, somewhat human-shaped. Although I didn't get a very clear look with my shit-tier flashlight, I was 100% sure that that thing wasn't human. So I started panicking, raised my gun, and lit the fucker up. I emptied the whole 25th Butler Creek mag in about 3 seconds. I didn't even aim. My buddies woke up and started shouting, and it was all chaos for half a minute. I tried to tell them what had happened as fast as I could. Having dropped my flashlight, I didn't know if the creature had been hit or if it was even there anymore. One of my buddies picked up the light and directed it at the direction I was pointing my gun at. And there it was, just standing. Suddenly, the thing just kind of falls down and starts slithering at us, making no noise at all. We start screaming, grab our packs and guns, and start noping out of there. We must have ran like 10 kilometers straight up before taking a break. All of us were shaking. We didn't share a word. We walked the rest of the way to the public campground in DEFCON 1, weapons ready, and listening to every crack. I've never been as happy as I was when I saw some German tourists grilling sausages by their RV. They were all like, "What the fuck?" when we exited the woods with guns and low ready stance. We said nothing. We walked to our car and drove away, breaking pretty much every speed limit on the way. We talked about the thing on the way home. None of us knew what it was, but everyone had seen it, and everyone was convinced that it was not a human nor a normal animal of any sort. We decided to stay away from the woods for a while. Problem is that the wildlife around here is scared of people, even children, and there hasn't been one bear sighting in over 80 years, but the best is yet to come. Last summer, we decided to be tough guys and find out what the hell that thing was. This time, we would go with 3 ATVs in case we would have to bail out fast. We took 2 cameras, 3 308s, and 1 1276 with slugs. There were 4 of us, by the way. A load of survival gear, and one of my buddies managed to get a Gen 2 night vision camera. We also had 7 pipe bombs, which was black powder in 2-inch iron tubing with caps at the end, plus a visco fuse, just in case shit got out of hand. Yeah, it was kind of a lame fake operator tier shit, but we thought we would get all famous and shit if we actually killed it, or at least got footage of it. Anyways, we entered the woods with our gear and headed for the facility. Again, at the facility, everything looks normal and birds are singing again. No sign of anything abnormal. We decided to map the surrounding area and look for anything suspicious. Nothing was found. We make camp at the very same warehouse as we did the last time. Night falls and everything is still normal. We have guard shifts during the night, but nothing happens. Next day, we start exploring the woods area around the facility. We find a peculiar pile of dead trees. Looked like someone had hauled them there. We take a closer look. The trees are arranged in a fashion similar to a huge bird's nest. In the middle of the quote-unquote nest, there is one half-rotten moose carcass and a shitload of different animal bones. We start quietly noping back to our campsite. We park our ATVs next to the warehouse that we keep our camp in. We enter the camp warehouse and see our camping gear all torn up. The somewhat expensive cameras smashed against the floor. Food taken, and sleeping bags torn to pieces. Fuck. We take everything we could in like a minute and start driving the hell out of Dodge. It's evening by the time we get back to the public campground. A police officer stops us by the gates and checks our gun permits. Then, the officer proceeds by asking whether we wanted to volunteer for a search operation, since our ATVs would be very much appreciated. Some hiker had apparently gone missing in the nearby forest, 20 kilometers from the facility site. We look at each other and shake our head. One of my buddies quickly says something about being late, and we drive out of there. The dude who went missing was never found. We decided that we wouldn't go into woodsing in that part of the country anymore. His final post ends, stating he's done with exploring that part of the country. But then, he adds one last comment, replying to another user in the thread. Unfortunately, just like in the arson video, this happened in the earlier days of 4chan, when archives weren't as accessible. Nonetheless, we can only assume that the user asked about the well-being of the missing person. And that's when OP links a news article. I typed in the URL and was brought to a webpage, completely in Finnish with no translations. Wonderful. However, at some point, this URL did lead to something, so to the Wayback Machine we go. There were very brief moments within the last decade that this webpage was being visited, all returning in 404 errors and dead ends. However, 2010's history spike results in this. Missing Thai berry picker found dead in Lapland. The webpage doesn't show much, but the article states the following. A 38-year-old Thai man who was in Finland to earn money picking berries was found dead in a forest in Sala, in the east of Lapland on Thursday, after being missing for 2.5 weeks. No crime appeared to be involved in the death. Police investigator Ali Matola said that the deceased had appeared to have been dead for a longer period of time. The cause of death remains unknown, pending a forensic autopsy. There are no cliffs or other high places near the place where the body was found, which would seem to rule out a fall as the cause of death. The body showed signs of external damage, which was probably caused by animals and may have been inflicted post-mortem. Police resumed the search for the man on Wednesday after a woolen cap was found in the yard of a house. We assumed that the cap belonged to the missing man. We also assumed that a dog had brought the cap from the forest into the yard, Matola said. The body was found by soldiers a short distance from the road, between Sala and Kemijärvi. It was located 3 kilometers from where he had gone missing. The terrain has plenty of brush. One had to look very carefully to see the body, Matola says. The man disappeared on the 26th of July after picking berries for 3 days. He was last seen at 9 p.m. on the side of the road, waiting for a ride to his lodgings near the village of Kursu. He was in telephone contact with the picker's liaison before 9:30, after which his mobile telephone went silent. We are still trying to clarify the course of events and make a more precise timeline. We are also interested in finding out what route the man took, Martolo says. Quite a bit to dissect there, so here's what we know so far. The man vanished in July of 2010. He was found dead 2.5 weeks later. He was berry picking in Lapland. His body had been deceased for quite some time upon discovery, meaning he might have died shortly after disappearing. His cause of death is unknown. Death by cliffs and heights were ruled out instantly. His body had external injuries, meaning he was attacked and eaten after death, quote-unquote, probably by an animal. His body was found between Sala and Kemijärvi, 3 kilometers away from where he initially went missing. He was last seen alive, talking to his superiors over the phone. 30 minutes later, his phone would go silent. A few weeks prior to this article, the same website would post the following. Police release name of missing Thai berry picker. Finnish police have disclosed the name and passport photograph of a Thai citizen who has gone missing in Finnish Lapland, where he has been earning money picking berries. The man was identified as 38-year-old Samchai Punsab. Punsab vanished in Sala on Monday of last week. We have not been searching in the terrain since Thursday, and now we hope to get information from the public, says police investigator Ali Matola. Punsab was last seen wearing a black coat and dark blue jeans, and a pair of brown rubber boots. He also had a bright blue knit cap, which can also be used as a balaclava. The cap has a black lining. The missing man also had a black rucksack and a black belt bag. He was last seen on Monday evening last week on a road near the village of Kursu. The last telephone contact with him was shortly before 9:30 in the evening that day, after which contact was lost. Now we know his body was already found, but now we have a name and face to go with this rather difficult case. Samchai Punsab, the berry picker who mysteriously wound up dead, still has no public records of his autopsy. What was discovered about his death post-discovery remains unknown. Something killed Samchai Punsab. Something in the woodlands of Finnish Lapland attacked and murdered Samchai, and his death remains a mystery, rather due to being unsolved or simply a lack of media coverage. Now, let's go back to OP's story. He states they ventured out and found an old abandoned military facility that was seemingly being guarded by some sort of cryptid. When I looked up Lapland military facilities, I came across this article. A military camp in the middle of nowhere. Abilities, dislocation, and the archaeology of a Second World War German military base in Finnish Lapland. A World War II German military base named Peltojoki, meaning OP's details about them finding a facility from the Cold War era lines up with the location, seeing that the Cold War started almost directly after World War II. But then, OP goes on to describe his several encounters with a creature more monster than animal. Something that can crawl on walls, slither on the ground, and stands roughly 9 feet tall, with yellow eyes. We can easily say that this isn't an animal, and looking into Finnish folklore and cryptology, I found that the concept of a skinwalker isn't all too common within their cultures. Yet, looking into folklore, there is one thing that possibly stands out with potential. Leshy. I'm going to take a pause here. When I wrote and researched for this script, I must have researched incorrectly, or I was just tired. Both are very possible. Leshy doesn't actually fall into Finnish folklore, but more into Slavic mythology. I do go on a little discussion about Leshy, as his characteristics do still fit the profile, but it's not fitting for the culture. Sorry about that.
The Leshy is masculine and humanoid in shape, is able to assume any likeness, and can change in size and height. The Leshy, he from the forest, is a tutelary deity of the forests in pagan Slavic mythology.
The fact that Leshy is capable of completely altering his appearance and protects the forests from hunters does seem to align with a lot of the traits that OP stated in his story, seeing that OP and his friends might have angered Leshy with their hunting. As I surfed the internet trying to find more context to the story, I came across this comment relating to this 4chan post. I don't really think it may be a skinwalker, but I do remember reading something that during World War II, a battalion of Soviet soldiers that were advancing on the Finnish territories decided to move through an area that the people of a town told them was a cursed place, but they ignored the warnings. Sometime after, the Soviets were all found dead. Not a single survivor of the battalion. And it surely wasn't the work of Finnish soldiers, as some of the corpses had been mutilated or bitten. In the end, I don't know. Do I believe OP came face to face with a Finnish god and survived to tell the tale? No. Do I know what OP came across? Also no. Could OP simply be lying for entertainment's sake after discovering a, at the time, 3-year-old article? Very possible. However, something out there in the forests of Lapland murdered Samchai. We can't say it is impossible that the same thing OP hunted could have also gone after Samchai, or that this same creature was also the one that hunted after the Soviet battalion. There's something out there in the forest depths. There's answers to unsolved questions, but the reality of the situation is, even if provided answers, would we accept them? Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed your stay. I've been your host, Time6, and this has been the Maverick Files. Have a good night.